Hello and welcome to the We Are Birmingham podcast. I'm Chris Golding.
I'm Matthew Elliott.
And as ever, we're joined by the vegan. Hi Dave, good evening, how you doing?
I'll go as far as saying not almost as ever. Mostly, mostly forever.
Almost as ever, mostly. Yeah,
Mostly, sometimes.
Photographing,
yeah,
things, bands, whatever else.
Holidays,
but
all sorts.
We are holidays, yeah. But we are back. Yes, MB in the comments, we are running late because...
And it's live!
Oh, bit of an echo there. Yeah, it's live. We're running late. We have got a special guest lined up as well. So we'll get on to it. It's super special. How are we doing anyway, fellas? We okay?
We good?
We good?
Go first,
yeah. It's been a exciting few days of news announcements. It's been non-stop, hasn't it?
Well, no. But how are you?
How am I?
How are you?
I'm still coming to the realization that I took most of June off on holiday, and now I've got to be back at work. So I've been in Gran Canaria, I've been in Berlin, and then there's the realization that I've got to earn some money now.
Chewy?
Yeah, not long back from holiday myself, a couple of days. So
Did you run up Snowdon?
I didn't.
You walked it.
I hiked. There was people running up and down.
Oh yeah, mentalists.
And it put an idea in your head.
Well, I found out the world record for doing that is like an hour and 5 minutes, and it's been held for like 40 odd years or something ridiculous like that. So no, I don't think so. There's certain parts of that climb where you just like, why would you even attempt to run this? I enjoy running as much as the next person. Because...
The next person fucking hates running. But anyway, what was the view like up there?
From Instagram, it looked lovely. Cloudy.
Yeah, but then you got so far up, and it was just like pure just cloud, and it was so cold at the top. Despite obviously it's like 20 odd, and then you get to the top, and I had like icy droplets all over my face. It was good though. I actually wanted to go up and do it again later in the holiday, but we just didn't have the time to do it. But it's kind of given me a bit of motivation to try and do something else. But my other half is doing Ben Nevis in September, so we're going to.
And you know about that, and you're all right with
it. So she's going to need a bit of training beforehand. So we're going to probably do some hikes around here because there's some quite mountainous areas around here, as you can probably imagine. But no, it was a good holiday. I call it a holiday. We went away. It's not a holiday when you have 4 children to look after. I ate too much. I drank a bit more than I normally would. Had fun, actually.
Right. Still a holiday.
It's still a holiday. I wasn't going to work, but it was just as stressful as anything else we would normally do. But we did loads of activities. But the kids you could not tire them out, which was wild. And they're still all awake right now as well, and they should all be asleep. I can hear them all. But they've managed to stay out of their room for the last half an hour or so. So let's hope that continues.
What have you been up to, Chris?
My little update is that this morning we went and signed the contract for our new house. It's not done yet by any means, but...
Is it Neil Moxley done?
I mean, yeah, if you want to jump the gun, if you want to completely jump the gun, yes, it's done.
Close but not done.
Not done.
Yeah. It's been a whirlwind few days, Chris.
We've signed. That's all that matters. Well, it's not.
It's not all that matters.
You've done what you can.
We've done what we can do, yeah. And we've spoken to the seller, and he said that it won't be long. So, fingers crossed. But yeah, no holidays for me, unfortunately. It's we went to Disney in January, so I'll have to bide my time. But yeah, it was
moving house will be a holiday for you.
No. So don't go all Gary Neville on me. It's moving house isn't a holiday. like going on holiday isn't a mini retirement; it's a holiday. It's moving house is moving house.
Most importantly, have you worked out what OSC was going? What implications this will have for your OSC?
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it doesn't affect. It doesn't
he's
affect me.
already
So
joined.
no, I didn't join the Solihull OSC. I joined the LGBTQ one last season as an ally in support of them. So, I mean, I'll probably just join them again, and I won't join a local one. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah,
Is there a local one? You could set it up. You could be a.
there is a local one. Yeah, there's a local one for the bigger surrounding area.
Well, if you listen to Wab and spot Chris in his new surroundings, feel free to sign him up.
I'll
You
shout
already
that, mate.
know he likes to keep these people at arm's length, though, doesn't he? He doesn't want to speak to these people.
Does not need it. Does not need any more friends. Has got enough
Stay
He's
friends.
got enough friends.
Stay away. Do not approach Golding.
Absolutely not. Right. Shall we start talking about some football? Because it was
suppose.
what 6 signings in 6 days.
A whirlwind few days. Chris.
Whirlwind few days. You could say that again in the next paragraph.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
But we kind of knew that this was all going to start kicking off in the beginning of July, didn't we? So
People got itchy feet, didn't they? When there was nothing happening for a
they're all
couple of
panicking
weeks.
because Rotherham were signing loads of people. Oh wait, yeah, that was last season. But yeah, I mean, I think people were a little bit more relaxed this time around because I mean, it took us even longer to do business this off season than it did last season. I think last season was like the 15th or the 16th of June. We went right into July before we started really had any movement on players. But boy, did we then! Obviously, if you don't count like Newman, etc. But boy, did we really go hell for leather on signings last week and get what I think we can probably consider it the majority of our incoming business done. We'll get onto it later, but I think it's probably maybe 2 or 3 more positions for them to fill.
It's a big chunk of it, though. Definitely. It's. I mean, the. Do you think they had them stacked up and they were done, but they were just spreading them over
I mean,
days?
Beadle was probably the worst kept secret, wasn't it? I mean, I think that was maybe like before that might have been the end of May, very, very early June. That one we spoke about it last time, didn't we? He was definitely that was already kind of done. In fact, that was definitely really done, wasn't it? Because he clearly the interview that he did, he mentioned in there it was nice to get it done early. There was none of the backdrop for the 150-year anniversary and all that. He was in his normal gear, not in the blues.
And
gear.
if you look at the photos of him outside Epic, they'd literally just shown the 150-year thing entrance into Epic with all the gold branding, and that wasn't there.
So that one was done
Thanks
a
for that.
long time ago.
Santa just turned up.
All the others, no, I don't think so. Obviously, they've probably had conversations, etc. They'd had. I think there was a lot of backwards and forwards on the Demarai Gray stuff. Okay, we'll get into it. I'm sure, but I mean that was obviously quite a complex deal to try and get done. I don't. Do you have a structure of where you want to start with on these players rather than just jump from player to player? So do you want to start somewhere, or do we want to wait till?
Let's summarise to begin with until the special guest turns up.
Yeah. So the Gray one, obviously, I think a lot of Blues fans. I think the nostalgia hit for a lot of new Blues fans is the romanticism side of things. It's pretty big. I could take or leave the Gray thing,
but you've come around to it a bit more than you had previously, haven't you? You said to us you had anyway.
Just from a point of view of just terms of being like a ball carrying winger, pace, skillful, a person that's going to put the defence on the back foot, then absolutely we do need someone like that. We need someone like that last season as well. And there's one thing that apart from Beadle, well actually you can include Beadle in it. There's one thing a lot of these players have, and it's experience playing at higher levels of football. They're all a little bit older, apart from Beadle. they're a different profile of player, I think, compared to the players we would normally go out and sign. But yeah, the Gray one, yeah, I have come around to it. There is still concern about his output, I think, but we know football's about more than that. Chris Davies obviously knows him from coaching at Leicester, although that period he didn't play an awful lot of football. He wasn't in the side a lot. He was left out a bit, and he was only used sparingly. But there's obviously some form of relationship there. But yeah, I mean, it's nice that you want to come back. I'm sure if other clubs could have made it work, they would have. Whether or not we got any form of special treatment because we were the club that I can't say we were his boyhood club. We were in terms of an academy, but I don't think he ever supported Blues, despite the fact that I think he was a Liverpool fan. Was he?
I think that's around the time that when he was leaving, that was the suggestion.
Yeah.
It wasn't
but yeah, obviously very, very good player. But he was sitting on a £7 million contract at I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name, but the team he was at in Saudi. So that obviously had to be a bit of give and take from all parties. I'm sure Blues are paying a lot more than people realise in terms of wages. I'm sure we've stumped up quite a big signing on fee as well, in terms of almost putting it towards the wage he's missing out on. And I'm guessing that their club in Saudi have obviously paid a little bit to him as well. So, because, you know, for all the will in the world, he may have wanted to come back, but nobody gives up £7-8 million to go back to your boyhood club. So I'm sure he has made a sacrifice of some description, but I'm sure a lot of it has been made up elsewhere.
I wasn't sure that it was ever going to happen, and then sort of as it started trickling through, I was just like, well, I can see why we might do it. I can see why we might look for it, and then started to sort of say, well, do you know what? It's probably, I can't see there being a lot of risk involved. Blues end. I think that we pretty much know what we're getting.
If you can make it work financially, because obviously there is a financial risk there.
And there's of course the thinking of everyone saying that we're completely fine with profit and sustainability or whatever they call it.
Nobody really knows that, do they?
No.
To be honest,
No.
So we're being sold this story that we will be fine, but I don't think anyone truly knows. And you know, they're clearly going balls out with a few of these signings in terms of wages and signing on fees and the bullshit you see online about we've not even spent a penny yet. I mean, that's absolute nonsense, isn't it? We've actually spent quite a lot, I think, in terms of much higher wages, much higher sign-on fees. Yeah, I mean, Gray's had some nice little things thrown into that deal, hasn't he? Like, he's got his son in the academy now, magically. So he's just appearing in our academy soon, or Little Blues, as he called them in his video. So I'm sure there was some sweeteners in there to make it all work. He obviously wanted to be back closer to his family, which, you know, if he's in a happy place mentally, then obviously
get the best out of him. Football,
he plays his best football. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah, I did come round to it. I mean, after watching his interviews as well, you kind of feel like you see how much he's grown up compared to his interviews you would have watched like before he left to go to Leicester and stuff like that as well. So, yeah, I was a little bit more enthused by it. What I will say to people is that I think there's a lot more money been thrown at this one than people realise. I think a lot of people think he's just done us a favour, but I don't think that is necessarily the case. But...
Yeah. Right, now we have been joined. People might hear a little echo because he's just joined us. He's just coming in. We've been welcomed by the presence of Ben from Blues Breakdown. Good evening, Ben.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent.
Hopefully, can't hear ourselves. Did you have a bit of trouble there? Were we coming through your speakers?
I don't think so. My headphones are plugged in all right.
Oh, okay.
We seem to be all right now.
I can hear like twice as much.
Yeah, I think as well. I'm not sure where this is coming from.
Hopefully it's okay. Hopefully it's just us. So, where should we start with Ben? Should we put him on the spot?
Let's just go through them in order, shall we, mate? And well, a bit of
Beadle?
a chat around each one. Yeah.
Come on then, Ben.
Jeremy.
Beadle. Not Jeremy.
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? That I guess it was made official. I can't remember exactly when it was. Obviously, just after. It's been a long time coming. That one, hasn't it? I think.
1st of July?
Yeah, I was going to say. I think that one's been known about though for way before the Euros, the under-21 Euros. And I think actually when you watch the kind of interview that he did, it definitely looked like he'd done that pre going away with the England squad.
He just said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's clearly a very, very highly rated keeper. Brighton think a lot of him. I think he's got some really nice attributes, some really good attributes. I think he'll probably fit the style of play fairly well. I mean, I think outside of the Premier League, there's few better keepers with their feet than Ryan Alsop, and I think ultimately, that's one of the biggest reasons that we saw him come into the club this time last year. I don't think Beadle's quite at that level, but I think he's certainly in that mould. He's still young. I think there's there are other parts of his game that perhaps need some refinement, and perhaps maybe a little bit more confidence in those areas. For a big, he's what, 6'7".
6'7". Yeah.
He doesn't have a huge commanding presence in his area, and he looks a bit hesitant at times.
Another big man who's not good in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, 6'7" and his arms.
Well, exactly. He just seems a little bit hesitant occasionally when I've seen him, in terms of kind of coming for crosses. He tends to stay on his line quite a bit. He's got a big frame, he's got a big reach, and perhaps he backs himself to that reach and that length to to make saves rather than coming to claim it. But I don't know. Maybe we just have this assumption when you see a goalkeeper that size that they would be a big commanding presence in the area. But and I think he's got a slight tendency as well to push the ball back out into semi-dangerous areas.
These are all things I said on the last podcast, so I'm glad Ben's come on here to make me feel better about.
Ben listened to everything.
I listened to it, Matthew. So just
Ben
repeating
just took
it.
notes on that last one.
But no, I mean, I think they're valid concerns. I think it's also worthwhile pointing out that he was playing in a largely. My screen is going mental there. I've got boxes flying all over the place. It was very distracting. I think it's
porn virus just opened up.
That's in the other window, mate. That's horrendously distracting.
So it is the porn.
Yeah, it is. No, I've completely lost my train of thought now.
You were going.
I think you were going to refer to playing at Sheffield Wednesday.
Played at Wednesday. He didn't have the greatest defence in the world in front of him. I think somebody asked my opinion on him back when we were first linked with him, and I said, I don't think he certainly wasn't helped by playing in that Wednesday team. I think at times he didn't massively cover himself in glory. Is probably a fair summation of particularly the second season at Wednesday. I think actually if you spoke to Sheffield Wednesday fans after his first stint at the club, I don't think they could probably sing his praises highly enough. I've seen some jibes from opposition fans online saying, well, he got replaced by a 18, 19-year-old academy keeper at Sheffield Wednesday in the second half of last season. But I think a lot of that was probably down to the fact that they knew that he wasn't likely to come back for another season, and why were they giving game time to a keeper that ultimately they weren't gonna persist with longer term. So I think I wouldn't read massively into that, to be honest with you.
Darren M in the comments has just said, I hope Allsop doesn't get dropped for Beadle. Better backup than Peacock Farrell. I mean, we said the week on the podcast, I'm not sure whether they'd send him here if it was just going to be as a backup. But
they see him as their future number one. They see him as a future England goalkeeper. they are going to want him to play football. I think so. And there'll probably be, we spoke about it before, there'll probably be like financial penalties in place if we don't play them. Of course, I think Blues and Chris Davis don't, certainly the coaching staff won't care about that if they think that Ryan Alsop is the best option. I mean, from my point of view, like Ben sort of reiterated a lot of what I said last time around, but I don't think Beadle is a significant upgrade on Alsop from the way I feel about it. Certainly, we know with his feet, Ryan Alsop is as good, if not better, than most goalkeepers in the Premier League and can play out from the back. He wasn't really exposed that much last season. He looked very, and he played a lot better than I was expecting him to do. I was actually quite surprised at how well he played. But at the same time, I think he does suffer from some of the same issues as Beadle, where he sort of gets rooted to his line a little bit and doesn't command the box as well as he probably should do. But if I had to choose between the two, I think I'd still be going down the route of Alsop now. Let's see what happens 10 games in.
We said last week, we had the conversation last week, didn't we? We said who would we pick? For me, I think it's Alsop. He's earned that chance. He's earned that right. What would you say, Ben?
I agree. I mean, like, if it were me, I'd be gloves to Alsop game number 1. It's ultimately it's his shirt to lose.
Yeah.
He fought to win that shirt off. Well, I'm not necessarily sure he had to fight particularly hard to win the shirt off Bailey Peacock Farrell last season, but it is his to lose. I think you guys summed it up on the podcast a couple of weeks ago as well. I agree, Matthew. He's certainly not a significant upgrade on Alsop on the face of it. He may well go on to have an absolute storming season, and I really hope he does, for obvious reasons. But I think he's certainly an upgrade on Peacock Farrell. I think he makes the
goalkeeping department is stronger now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think Chris, you said that a couple of weeks ago, that the goalkeeping department is stronger now. The starting 11, maybe not necessarily, depending on who plays.
Yes, stronger backup. But you know what? If we can get through a season, then there's other options available. Then we go again and have a look and see what's there. John Paul Taylor in the comments has just said Pierce Charles is a highly talented prospect for Sheffield Wednesday, so no shame in being dropped. But to be fair, not many 20-year-old goalkeepers start 60-plus games in the Championship. He's here to start.
He's also the young Sheffield Wednesday goalkeepers, the Northern Ireland goalkeeper as well. And he's kind of ousted
But Peacock Farrell out.
Peacock Farrell from their side as well now. So yeah, there's a trend there somewhere, I think. Sort of.
Do we move on?
Yeah.
Doyle? Gray?
No, we'll go with Doyle.
Doyle.
Because I think this is huge. I think this is a much bigger coup than a lot of people realise. So I'm going to let Ben take the floor because this is Ben's wheelhouse. So
it's a strange one because I will openly admit I watch very, very little Premier League football. Almost.
We lost you briefly. Go on.
Frozen. I'm back.
Let it go.
Sorry, I was just saying. I watch very, very little Premier League football, so I haven't really seen much of Tommy Doyle over the last couple of seasons that he's been with Wolves. But I do remember him in that Sheffield United Championship team a couple of years ago, where he was very, very, very good. And I agree. I think to have signed someone of his quality at the kind of age that he is, I know it's only a loan for the season as far as we're led to believe at this stage. I know there's been various different things reported in terms of potential clauses in there, obligations or otherwise. But I mean, I think both Blues and Wolves put out a statement just to say it was a season-long loan at this stage.
Yeah, so my cousin is a Wolves fan, and he messaged me, and he said, "I really like him, Chris. He'll have a great season with you, I'm sure." Before we picked him up, he'd had a great season with Sheffield United in the Championship. He's had 2 good seasons with us. with the new manager, he just hadn't had so many opportunities. I think he only started about 7 games last year, but a lot of sub appearances, and he gives 100%. He's a good tackler, good range of passing, and he has a great character. So, I mean, I'll take that. I think that the change of manager and the change of, I mean, lots of people have seen it, haven't they? That a manager comes in, has new ideas, the face doesn't quite fit or the style doesn't quite fit. Where would you see him coming in at Blues?
I think he is very much. If we look at the midfield pairing at the moment of obviously Peck and Iwata, I think he's probably taking, or he's vying for the same sort of spot and role that that Peck plays.
So, yeah, out of the two of them, you think it would be him
I,
to maybe give us something a bit more going forward?
Yeah, I mean, he's a Man City graduate, isn't he? So he's very very comfortable in coming deep to collect the ball, taking the ball on the half turn, spinning into midfield, playing forward balls from or midfield third. So in terms of what he offers, similar to Peck, I think I have little doubt that he will be able to play that kind of role that we've seen from Peck this season. But I think he probably gives us a little bit more creativity going forward, and occasionally I do wonder whether or not we've not seen.
He's gone again. He's gone again.
The full
Ben,
array of.
I can still see him.
Kind of.
Ben,
Hello? I can hear him and see him. What have you?
Can you?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear him. He
Sorry,
vanished
Ben.
off mine. Sorry. Can you repeat yourself, mate? Sorry.
I'll try. I'll rewind.
Welcome to the podcast, mate.
What week is it? Sorry, no, I was saying I think he's a graduate, Man City Academy. He was there for a long time. So in terms of general ability on the ball, I don't think there's any question there that he will slot seamlessly into the kind of style that the Blues will play next season. He's very comfortable coming deep, receiving the ball from the keeper or from one of the back four, taking it on the half turn. Getting through the press from the opposition in the same way that we've seen Peck and Iwata do that all season. Very adept at playing long balls from defensive or midfield areas as well. So getting us moving forward. And I was just kind of saying, I think when I think back to how he was in that Sheffield United team, he was a very creative midfielder, and perhaps we haven't seen that side of Peck's game all that often. And that could just be, a symptom of the system that he's been playing in terms of, he's possibly not given that freedom. But on the face of it, I think he will give us something a little bit different to what we've seen from the two guys last season, and I think that's really exciting. The only other thing I'd mention on him in this bit is his set piece ability. Was very, very big for that Sheffield United team a couple of seasons ago in terms of both from corners, free kicks, etc. The delivery was excellent, and that was probably, if you were being ultra critical of Blues and Davis last season, that was an area that I think you'd highlight immediately and say we were very impotent from set piece situations, particularly for the height that we've got in the side, and some of the guys that we've got in the team who I'd have expected us to have probably utilised that a bit more efficiently. And I think having somebody with Doyle's dead ball ability will certainly help with that.
There was a lot of times last season that we ended up hitting the first man from corners, and it just wasn't good enough.
Set pieces were
delivery.
really frustrating last season. So someone that actually is good from a dead ball situation. We saw the difference that Doyle made when he first started. When he came in and we started to take a few free kicks and corners and things, and I think there seemed to be a bit of an upturn in our sort of creation and chance conversion from set pieces once Doyle had come in. So I think again we do need someone like Doyle. Sorry. Do you think there's a potential he could play as a 10 I've
You
had
going
this
Chris or
conversation
me?
with about 3 different people.
I'm,
So
I'm thinking that he's asking you, Ben. I would say I don't see him coming in as a number 10.
not as I'm not saying he's coming in as number 10. But
No,
I think
coming
there's
in
potential
into that position.
I think if he did play as a 10, it would be much more like how we saw Luke Harris play that 10 role last year, in terms of it was not necessarily, if you could say that he played that role. Yeah, I think when Harris was in the side and kind of on the team sheet in that 10 role, what we actually saw was probably a bit more of a midfield 3 rather than a kind of an out and out number 10. And I think if Doyle was to play that role within the team, I think it would be a similar type of role. I don't necessarily see him in the same way. I mean, we used a number of different. We used that number 10 spot, I guess, last year in a variety of different ways. We saw Luke Harris play it where he probably dropped a little bit deeper. We saw Willemsen play it where he tended to drift a little bit wider. We saw Dykes play it as a kind of a target man number 10.
Yeah.
We saw Stansfield play there, who was almost playing as a second striker. We saw Alfie May play it. So there were a number of different ways that we utilised that position. And I think I don't see Doyle not being able to play in that role, but I think he would probably play it in a way that he would drop deeper from there and try and dictate play.
he's I know a minute ago I think I said Doyle a few times. I meant to say Dowell. I think hopefully you guys got that. I work with quite a lot of Man City season ticket holders and Man City fans, and their feed. Certainly Joe Butterfield, who he does a few sort of podcasts and stuff for Man City Extra and things like that. He said Doyle was one of the players that he genuinely thought was going to break through into the team and end up being a very sort of close to a first team or a squad player. But then Pep normally just hates young players and kids and sells them. I think he gets quite bitter about that sort of stuff, like a lot of football fans do. But he said he thinks he's not reached his ceiling yet. He's followed his career up to now as well, and it says he's got a really high ceiling. Doesn't think he's even got anywhere near it yet. So hopefully if things do go well with us and there is a permanent move there, see if we can get the best out of him. But I'm really excited about it. I think he's going to be a big player for us throughout the season. As you said, Ben, he was very influential during that Sheffield United promotion season.
There's been a couple of comments that have come in. Doyle, very good player, but it doesn't suit playing in a 3 for Wolves as he's not athletic enough. Then there's a follow-up comment from someone else saying you could squeeze Doyle in if we went 4-3-3. So a different system to Wolves, but in a 3. Then he was also under 21 captain for Man City in England, so he's another player with leadership qualities, which is probably a very good point to make, because I think that Davis really likes going for players that have got that leadership about them. Build a squad of leaders. And then I'd rather have Mo Harris off EastEnders than Luke Harris. Christ.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think that one's. Don't think
I'd
there's
rather
anything
have
in
Keith
that one.
Harris with
Keith Harris with all. That takes up 2 men in the squad, doesn't it? Should we move on?
Yes.
Dimmy?
Dimmy, yeah. Dimmy.
That's very rude. Very rude. for such an intelligent man, that's very rude.
Oh dear. Classic.
I know.
Talk to us
Ben.
about Dimmy. I mean, obviously we know the player he was when he was at Blues. He's obviously matured a lot. What's your thoughts on it, Ben?
I mean, it's hard not to like it, isn't it? From almost a nostalgic point of view, a 19-year-old kid who left probably before his time due to the situation around the club at that particular during that particular era. He was one of a handful of players that left that probably, I think, had we been in the situation we're in now, we'd have kept hold of and would have been at the club a bit longer. So it's nice that he returns. In terms of
You fell into the nostalgia trap, Ben.
Yeah,
I thought better of you.
just every so often, I think you're allowed a little bit, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm joking. I get it.
Bring back Bob Madsen.
Yeah.
We never saw the best of him.
Didn't see him at all. No, I think from a playing point of view, it's how much do you really read into his time in Saudi? I mean, a guy's honestly going over there for the level and standard of football, or are they going over to chase a bit of money? And I don't knock anybody doing that, right? If anybody else in any other walk of life was offered a ridiculous pay rise to go and do the same job that they were doing now in probably nicer and better conditions, then you jump at it, right? So I'm not knocking anybody that that plays over there and does that at all. So I mean, he's again, opposition fans will point to the fact that this when the past season he didn't register a single goal or assist. I think the season before he was 8 or 9 goal contributions across the season, which isn't terrible. But again, he's just turned 29, is it?
Just turned. Yeah, he had a lot of injuries last season as well. Like looking at his statistics, I don't think he really got a decent run of games. It was all very patchy. He seemed to pick up a few injuries here and there. And actually, you sort of God, one of my youngest daughter came in a minute ago, and now the cat's come in.
She thought that you were going to Saudi for the money. She misheard what Ben was saying.
My cat, you're going to get my cat's backside in the camera in a second.
Well,
he had
I'll
a
tell you
very
what,
sort of...
he does prove, doesn't it?
And it's live.
And it's live. There we go. Very patchy last season there, and sometimes you can. I wouldn't say he was. If he'd been playing anywhere else, those injuries, those niggles, he may have played through them, but because of where he was in the situation and the money you're getting paid, then he obviously wasn't happy there because he wanted to come back. Who's to say that actually he just didn't? He was just trying to protect himself a little bit more than he would normally. So I mean, I didn't really buy into the nostalgia and the romanticism side of it. I said earlier on. But I have warmed to it because we do need a player like him, that's someone that's got pace and can carry the ball. And I'm gonna have to shut that door in a second because the kid has left it open. I'm gonna let you guys carry on for a second whilst I get rid of the cat and close the door. And why she is 2 years old and she's still awake at 9:24.
I'll blame the parents. See, for me, I don't think we saw the best of Dimmy before. I know we didn't. It was a case of needs must almost, and that we had to get rid of people. And you know what? I don't know if we're going to see the best of him second time round, but I hope that we see. I hope that there's enough left in there to give us what we're missing essentially. And I'm sure that there is. I'm sure that we've seen enough from him in the past, what he's done in the Premier League, to know that there's at least at championship level that there's a player that can offer us that player who can break teams down. And
I mean, he's only just turned 29 as well, as Ben said. So
finish.
It's
he's not finished.
He's not finished. He's Jamaican. He's in theory a lot for 29 now. That is some players' peaks, isn't it? So I assume he's looked after himself fairly well. He's played a lot of football since the age of sort of 17. So yeah, I mean, he's going to add a completely different dynamic to the side, and I think it's something that we needed. I think it's probably the proof will be in the pudding, won't it? When he plays, I think we'll know. I mean, you would think he's an instant starter, but then you've got someone like Keshi Anderson who would have been very, very close to player of the season last season had it not been for Clara. So
now, is it a banana and custard or is it creme brulee? Remains to be seen. Proof's in the pudding, you said. How good's the pudding?
It's not even
a few comments.
It's not even worthy of that.
Dimmy and Keshi will do us proud on the left this season. With another one, can we just mention the QPR divs who seem to think Poku is Yamal compared to us signing Dimmy? He's a Premier League winner and at championship level, he should hit double figures for goal contributions. And
hope so.
from Zarking, my mate's an Everton fan who loves him. That's good enough for me.
Do you know what? There's an Everton fan that I used to work with, and he said he would have happily taken him back as well. So and I think I've seen other people say that as well. So you know, they obviously quite liked him there.
Yeah.
I think if we'd have signed Gray straight from Everton, everybody would be saying that's the signing of the championship season.
Yeah.
Genuinely believe, a winger that's played 200 times in the Premier League is a full international player. Plenty of caps for Jamaica. I think if we'd have signed him straight from Everton, everybody would go, yeah, that's it. I think the fact that he's been in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, and I think even if we'd have signed him after the first season, people still would have gone, well, that's a real big signing, that is. So I think sometimes you have to look past some of the jealousy and whatever else it is on social media from other fans.
Wow. Next one, because there's a comment saying no coincidence we signed pacey players who are ball carriers, the thing we lacked last year.
Oh, 100%.
Totally did.
We spoke about it numerous times last season. We spoke about it at the end of the season. We spoke about it like in the build up to the new season as well. So I'm glad it's been addressed, because it was a glaring hole, it was something that was clearly missing from that squad.
Yeah. So on that note, Ben, can you tell us something about Fujimoto?
Excellent. How long have you been working on that one?
Just
Since you signed.
Yeah, it's. I'll be frank that I think Fujimoto is probably the one that I know the least about. But again, a diminutive, technical midfield player that can probably play a number of different roles. So I know he's primarily a number 10, but I think actually he played more as a right-sided centre midfield in the 3 this season in Portugal.
Yeah.
So he can certainly play a little bit deeper. I think when the links first came out, I said I think he's nailed on to play that right-winged role for us. Oh, have you lost me again? Because the screen's shifting about.
No,
we can still hear you fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like Tetris on my screen with stuff moving about. I said when the links first came out and I had a little watch of him, that I could see him playing that kind of the role that Doyle and Williamson played last season in terms of off the right hand side, but very much playing inside in those kind of forward areas and the kind of the half spaces as people call them. He's I think he was linked with some of the bigger clubs in Portugal this summer as well that we've potentially beaten out.
beaten off.
So it's another situation where Craig Gardner has just beat a lot of people off to get his man, hasn't he? That's it.
Well known for that, isn't he?
Yeah, he is very well known, especially recently.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what I do know is that they're very impressed with his movement and the press, the press that he offers and that work rate. So I think that there's going to be a lot more. Last season, at the start of last season, we played West Brom in pre-season, and knowing that they play out from the back and how we were going to press them, and we did. And then the season started, and we pretty much gave up with the high press because no one was playing out from the back. So it was wasted. And I think that this season we're probably going to see a return of that high press and that high work rate, which is going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
I mean, the work rate was always there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah,
It was
yeah.
obviously just different areas of the pitch, but I mean, from a style of play, the style of play is not going to change that much. But yes, you're right in terms of it's going to be we're going to be playing teams that are going to be a little bit more open this season, I think.
I mean, the one 90-minute match that I watched, that I managed to find online to watch of him, was I think a 3-0 loss to Porto, where Il Vicente had about 25% of the ball. But it was really interesting because actually he spent the majority of the game running, chasing, pressing, didn't stop moving. In terms of total touch, I think he had about 12, 15 touches of the ball in the entire game. So from an on-ball perspective, it was completely pointless watching him because he hardly touched the ball. But it was very, very noticeable that he got forward. So I think they were playing at a 4-2-3-1, and he was playing in the number 10 role. But they were defending in a 4-4-2 shape. So he joined the striker to lead the press. So I think that's probably played into it. I mean, he had 10 goal contributions last season and similar the season before. I think what we've done with quite a few of these signings, either is we've raised the floor of the squad with them, whether that's because the current starter will now most likely be potential backup, or because of the guys that we're bringing in actually, they're a level above what we had previously. So I'm thinking of, we discussed it with James Beadle earlier. So he's an upgrade on Bailey Peacock-Farrell. So he's raised the floor, possibly not raised the ceiling necessarily. Fujimoto probably another one. I think he probably raises that floor up.
I think maybe Doyle with Leonard, perhaps.
Yep, exactly. I'm tempted to say, potentially that's a bit of a ceiling raiser as well.
Yeah,
I
think
could
so.
end up. I could fully see a world where he ends up replacing Peck and actually taking us to another level. And I'm sure we'll get onto a couple of the others. But
that's going to be really interesting this season to see where he does fit in with Doyle. I know that we've got over that.
I think what we need to remember is that it is. I know it didn't feel like it last season because Chris Davis was so rigid in his picking his side and he ran people into the ground essentially. But it is a squad game, and I think in terms of the championship, he can't do what he did last season and just flog them. There are going to be. He is going to make changes this time around, and floor raising, ceiling raising, whichever way you want to call it. He is going to play more,
roof raising,
taking the roof off. We
leveling up.
We've got so much quality there in the middle, and I think Doyle ends up playing more than anybody else in that centre midfield by the end of the season. Fujimoto, I'm kind of on the fence because I've watched footage of him. I watched footage of him last January, in January when we were linked to him, and he looks very tidy, looks quite creative. But I look at him, I just think I can't put my finger on what it is. There's just something missing for me. And then you look at, and I always do this, and he just looks so slight, and I do wonder how he will cope in the Championship with the physicality, because the Portuguese league is obviously it's quite a good standard, the top league in Portugal, but it's still not quite as physical as the leagues over here or the Championship. So I do wonder, he's quite small, quite slight, how he'll cope with that side of things. He may be absolutely fine, and I hope he is, but I do wonder a little bit. I mean, we've seen Willemsen struggle with the physicality, and he's 6'3", and yeah, I'd rather have him than Luke Harris, that's for sure. But I'm on the fence a little bit with him, and I say, like Ben, I've not seen an awful lot of him. I've watched a few YouTube clips, but there's just something that I can't put my finger on and why I don't.
What about a little bit of Yakayama, but with more work rate and defensive awareness? No? Okay.
I don't know, because they're not really the same sort of player, are they?
The clips that I've seen of him, he reminds me a little bit of him. Just some of the. No,
Chris,
not because of that. Not because of that. Not because of that. Just clever touches. Oh, fuck it.
I know.
Cancelled. We're cancelled.
It's your fault. I think Fujimoto is a far more intelligent player than Yokoyama. Intelligent.
I don't disagree with that. I just mean in terms of the quickness, the trickiness, the way they can move the ball, and the
potentially.
We'll see when we see him a bit more. I've literally only seen like one YouTube clip where Blues put it out and said, "This, look at him." So
Yeah,
not even
there's a
YouTube.
few YouTube clips of his last season and the season before. It is worth watching. He's clearly a good and talented player. Don't get me wrong. And I know Ben said you said something similar on. I know we had a very brief back and forth on Twitter last week when I posted something about it. And I think you kind of agreed with me then, didn't you, Ben? Or maybe you didn't. I don't know.
No, yeah. I missed all that because my screen was playing Tetris again, and I was waiting to see who you compared him to, Chris, because I was going to go.
I was just no, don't. We won't go there. We'll edit that out.
No, it's fine. I'll get cancelled for this as well. But because people say it's a lazy stereotype, and it's because they're the same nationality, etc. But I actually thought he reminded me a little bit of Koji Miyoshi.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, definitely is.
But
you're just the same as him. So
yeah, slightly different position, but similar in terms of good close ball control. Looks to create, looks to play forward, hard working, etc. That was, and also diminutive.
I mean, yeah, there's a few times where actually you can. I actually thought he looked. I can't remember the name of the player. It's a South American player, like a number 10. His names escape me now, but got a diminutive, like number 10, tricky sort of type. I can't remember. Was it Riquelme?
Riquelme. I was going to say Riquelme. Thought you might have accused me of being racist again.
Proper throwback that is.
Yeah, no, yeah. So
Not
I
all
sort
South
of
Americans
that,
are
but
the
the
same.
Miyoshi thing I think is a pretty good comparison.
Comment in the comments, obviously, because that's where comments go. JP Taylor, he's an upgrade over Miyoshi, and he didn't look too bad overall in the championship. As in,
I hope
Miyoshi
he is an
didn't look
upgrade
too
on
bad.
Miyoshi. I mean, it remains to be seen whether he is or not. We'll find that out, won't we? But
There's also a
hopefully he is.
comment. Apparently, he turned down Porto to come to us from Zarking. That obviously that's.
I mean, there was talk of Porto being interested. We don't know. He turned them down. I mean, I think that's probably worth mentioning as well, that this deal probably could have been done much earlier in the window, but there was a lot of backwards and forwards with this. He's got a knee issue. I think they probably got to a point of leaving it in the players' court to say, this is what we'll do with you, this is the structure of contract or whatever, and it sort of left him to do, because I think it could have been done a lot much earlier. And I think originally he didn't actually, in January we went for him, we tried to sign him for money, and I think he actually turned us down at that point. So yeah, I mean, I think we've protected ourselves there, because we obviously put players through quite a vigorous medical now, don't we, as well? So I would think we had to be happy with whatever deal we were putting in front of him to make sure that
Which is fair.
we were getting value for money.
Right, next one.
Who was the next one?
Do you want to go Bright?
Yeah.
Osayi-Samuel? Yeah. So we literally, the only thing that I remember about him at QPR was the goal that he scored against us.
Was one of the very few times he played on the left-hand side, because he doesn't often play that side, and he gave, was Collan playing right back that day? Yeah, he gave him a torrid time, didn't he?
Probably, you'd think going to be fitting in on the right hand side for us, and offering potentially a forward threat, more attacking threat.
Yeah. Well, I think this is it. Is he come in as a right back? Is he come in as a winger? Or is he come in as potentially
Both.
versatility? Is both. He could potentially play on the left hand side, but you've got Gray, Keshi there. So again, versatility, absolute pace, power, physicality, all things we need. Ball carrier, championship experience, Champions League experience. Likes to fight people.
I say brawler.
Yeah, brawler. He'll fit right in.
It seems like a really nice guy as well.
He does.
To
Yeah,
top
when
it
he's not punching people, he looks like a really, 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 really nice guy.
People who
Obviously,
deserve it, though.
The foundation
deserve
stuff he does in Nigeria. another one that we've obviously had to push the boat out for as well. I think Craig Gardner did beat off a lot of big clubs there to get this one in. I think we've ended up spending quite a bit of money on him in terms of wages and probably a decent signing on fee as well. You could see from the stuff that was being pushed out in the media that they might have been looking for, more money elsewhere. But he speaks really well. I'm really excited about this one because I think he adds a completely different dynamic to the side. Be good competition for Laird as a right back, but also think of the pair of them down that right hand side as well would be. Yeah, I'm slightly erect just thinking about that.
Your microphone's just risen up.
Yeah,
Ben?
Ben, your thoughts? Because this is one I got quite excited about. I was very, very surprised we managed to get this one done.
Yeah, I was going to say, it kind of came out of nowhere very quickly, and it seemed to kind of progress very quickly to the point where it looked like it was done, and then there were some rumours that, actually he was
Neil
thinking
Moxley done.
Yeah, we know what that stamp of approval means.
We can't call the podcast that, by the way, Chris. I know we've said it a few times, but we can't call it that because, we'll all get blocked.
What Neil Moxley done? I'm blocked anyway.
Sorry, go on, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in the Championship as a flying right-sided winger for QPR, but I think he's properly reinvented himself in Turkey as actually a pretty solid and sturdy right back / right wing back when needed.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised actually when I watched a little bit of him and looked at his kind of scouting card, and the defensive numbers stack up really well. I just assumed that he'd probably, knowing what he was like for QPR, that he was playing a right back role or a right wing back role, and was, essentially just getting forward at any given opportunity. But no, I think he's pretty solid defensively. I would hang my hat on the fact that he's probably coming in to compete with Laird for that right back role, given how we saw that being played last year in terms of holding the width on the right hand side and being given real license to get forward. I think when you also look that obviously Alphonse Samsted hasn't travelled with the squad to Port. Osayi-Samuel now. We've got Taylor Gardner-Hickman that can play at right back. We've got Phil Newman that can play at right back. Should
Oh yeah, of
he
course.
be
You
required.
forget about him.
Christian Bielik obviously filled in there a little bit. So, I think he's probably been brought in to play that role. Adds real athleticism and power down that right hand side. I agree with Matthew. I think this is a really, really exciting signing. I think this is one that, when I talked about kind of floor raisers and ceiling raisers, I think this one is a ceiling raiser for us. I think
Absolutely.
It's a desk raiser for Chewy.
It is.
So yeah, no, I think properly good signing, and one of those I think, with all the banter that's been flying around with QPR fans about whether Poku or Gray is the better signing, it was I think actually quite a few of them freely admitted that this was a really decent signing. Regrettably, through that's
done it
that
again,
meme,
though.
isn't it, with the face, and the crying tears behind it, saying, "Oh yeah, he's actually a properly good signing for them lot."
We've got another ex QPR player in. I'm sure that Clive from Lofferwares will have something to say about that. He can join the queue of Laird, Sanderson, Dezelle, Dykes.
Does he just want to join us as well?
Yes, he may as well. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm completely on. I'm really excited about the Bright one. I think it's a huge signing for us. The Championship experience, Champions League experience. Yeah, pace, power.
Andrew Fleming in the comments has said Bright has potential to bludgeon a left back. Bludgeon.
Good word.
It's not doesn't get used enough these days, does it? Bludgeon.
Can't wait.
I agree. Yeah. I am really looking forward to seeing the dynamic that he has to the squad. Am I right in is it the African Cup of Nations this? So we'll probably lose him for what, a month
Couple
and
of
a
months,
half?
is it? Around
Yeah,
January,
2 months.
February time.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if he is right back. And obviously, that gives Laird a run in the team at that point. But yeah, we are gonna miss him for a little while because he's their first choice right back now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Nigeria. And you mentioned about how you checked his sort of scouting card, looked at his defensive abilities. Was it Jose Mourinho that kind of moved him back to the right back or the right wing back position for Fenerbahce? Am I right in thinking that? Because
Yeah,
you'd have
he's
to be good
certainly
at
been there
defending.
for a couple of years. I mean, I think he'd kind of almost fairly shortly after joining them, he kind of moved into a right wing back role. But yeah, I think under Mourinho, he's been playing as a traditional. Well, I say as a traditional
Yeah.
right back, as a right back in a back four rather than a wing back in a back five,
Yeah.
as you will. So, yeah, I think he's certainly had some influence on that, Mourinho.
I think he's perfect for us. I really do. I think they've pushed the boat out to get him, no doubt. But I think it's a really, really good signing for us.
Yeah,
Cool.
my slightly hot take on this is that I don't think we'll see a massive amount of goal contributions from him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended the season with a couple of assists and maybe a single goal. I think what we will see from him is chances will be created from work that he does, either getting the ball into threatening positions down that right hand side or by
Pre-assists.
third assist, pre-assist, pre-assists. Yeah, so either through progressing the ball up the field into more threatening positions, or by his work kind of off the ball in terms of taking defenders with him with the runs that he's making, allowing freeing up space in the middle. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see 10 assists from him from right back, but I do think that a lot of good play will come through him or via him.
All right then, come on.
But of course, most fans will just ignore that and they'll be moaning that he doesn't create enough and doesn't have enough assists, etc. We're seeing the same thing with Ethan Laird as well. So
Quite possibly. Right, let's move on. The big one, the 10, 11, 12 million pound signing. It was probably like less than half of that.
probably about £4 million,
Yeah.
wasn't it? With
quite
like
small, isn't he?
add-ons.
You say the big signing, he's what, 5'7"?
Yeah, why have we signed a bunch of midgets?
Come on, this is
It's
just
only got- it's
dad
only-
joke central tonight.
We've just signed a load of midgets, though, haven't we, in this transfer window? Apart from Beadle, maybe they thought, yo, he's 6'7", so we can like.
If you're getting me
We've taken the
cancelled, I'll get
average
you
height of the
cancelled.
squad up.
You
We'll
can't,
just-
you can't call them midgets anymore.
I have to call them dwarves.
Vertically challenged.
Yeah.
Vertically challenged, yeah. We need, yeah.
Cancel me, I'll
we'll
cancel
get onto
you.
the bit of signing a bit more height, but yeah, I mean, I think Kyogo, we spoke about it when the rumor broke. I think it broke the same day we did the last podcast, Chris, and it felt like it would have had the potential to happen because of where it broke from. It took a little while to get there, to get it done. Again, there's probably a lot of give and take from the two parties. They spent £10 million on him in January. They're going to try and want to recoup some of that back.
So we were with a Motherwell fan we were at WorldNet at the weekend for the football tournament. Blues fans were there. We were sat with a Motherwell fan as we got word that it was done. He hates him, absolutely hates him. He says he's a horrible little bastard. He said, but when he's in your team, you'll love him. Said he dives, cheats, everything.
Oh yeah,
So,
the
but-
Rangers fans over here have all said, "Oh, he just cheats. He just dives all the time." I'm not sure how true that is because it's come from Rangers fans.
Well, that
and
came
we
from a
know they
Motherwell
can-
fan, and he said he'd
Yeah.
he'd have loved him in his team, but absolutely hated him.
If you probably look, and he's probably scored about 15 goals against Motherwell over the past 3 or 4 seasons. So that's probably fair reason why they hate him. But he, for me, based on the stuff I've watched when he was playing for Celtic, and I watched all his SPL goals on. You've probably all seen that YouTube video of all the goals he scored in Scotland, or at least the SPL. He is as natural as a finisher as I think we've had at this club for a very, very long time. Plays on sort of the last shoulder, the shoulder of the last defender. I think it'll probably be caught offside quite a few times, and people might get frustrated about that over time. But some of the finishes that he produces are just absolutely immaculate, and it's a whole range of finishes. And it looks like even for a sort of small, slight guy, he's not afraid to use his head either.
Both feet and head.
I think if we're putting the ball into dangerous areas, or threading the ball through, or doing cutbacks. I mean, you were saying about Bright, Osayi-Samuel not getting a load of assists, but you see a lot of the runs he was making forward in Turkey, and then just sort of cutting back into the danger area. You see a lot of Kyogo's goals in Scotland were kind of just sort of cutbacks and then lashing it into the net. Again, really excited about this one. I think it's interesting because obviously I think this is a ceiling raiser if we're going to go into that sort of conversation again. Clearly the best finisher, best number 9 at the club. I don't know what you guys think, but that's my point of view.
From what I've seen of him, I would agree with you. And so you made the Alfie May on steroids comparison to him, and some of the goals that I saw him scoring were ridiculous. There was the one where it was played through almost like a through ball between his legs, and he took a touch, shifted it onto his other foot, and just slotted it in.
Oh yeah,
and it was like incredible, like technique and then to get the finish away as well. I'm really excited about seeing him play. Ben, over to you.
You'll have to forgive me because Matthew's disappeared from my screen, so
No.
I haven't heard a word that he's just said.
Oh.
So I'll try not to repeat anything he did say. I looked at his scouting card when we were first linked with him, and kind of the pie chart, which kind of gives the different segmentations of how good a player is at certain different things, and his was brilliant because it was basically just goal threat. Goal threat was completely off the charts. And I popped in our group chat and basically said, interviewer asks Kyogo what he's good at, and he just says
Goals.
Shooting, and then anything out, goals. And then it was absolutely brilliant when he did the interview, and they said to him, "What are you going to bring to the team?" He's went goals. I was like, "There you go," because that is pretty much it. Essentially, that is his game. I think if he's able to get into positions and either finding the space or manoeuvring the ball into positions where he can get shots away. He's a high volume shot taker, and his goal return in Scotland and in Japan when he was playing over there is ridiculous, really. Albeit he's playing in a very, very good and very, very dominant Celtic side. But I mean those numbers that he was putting up is quite ridiculous, and I think if we see anything to that level in a blue shirt, we could be looking at somebody that could easily find the net 15 plus times this season. It'd be interesting to see how he integrates into the team, because I think there were reading some comments from Celtic fans that they felt that he perhaps didn't suit the Brendan Rodgers style quite as much as he suited the kind of more chaotic and front-footed Ange Postecoglou ball. And obviously we know that Davis is a disciple of Rodgers, so he perhaps wasn't quite as effective under Rodgers as he was under Postecoglou.
So Ben can't hear you at the moment, so I'm going to pass this on to...
I'll have Chris, my translator.
So say it again, Matthew. He worked with Postecoglou as well.
Davis did as well, didn't he? So
Yes, he did, of course. Yeah, at Spurs, didn't he, for a season?
Absolutely
Davis did, yeah.
Absolutely. So this is going to be an interesting finish to this podcast. If you two not being able to say.
Hopefully Dave can sort. I don't know if it's something Dave can sort out.
I don't think it's anything Dave can sort. Right. So
Sadly, it's nothing I can sort out my end at all. I can see all four. I can see all three of you. And is it just Ben? Can you? Who can you see, Ben?
I've got yourself and Chris on screen, and then I've got the screen of all four of us. And then I've got a little thing that says "not visible" and "no user." Which I'm
Yeah,
assuming
I've
is
got that as
nothing,
well, but
I
I can
just-
see and
Yeah.
hear everybody.
so he can hear you, Ben.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe you just blocked him.
maybe.
Maybe.
Is this something to do with Northern Ireland?
Well, you guys can see
We're not
me.
going down that
so-
rabbit hole. I'm already at risk of being cancelled once this evening.
Go on, I'm being cancelled. Chewie's being cancelled. You might as well be cancelled as well. Why not? Right, business that's left to do. I'll let you go here, Ben, because you've probably got something to do with squad depth, haven't you?
Yeah, I was putting that together the other day. And any way that I cut it, people will moan, depending on where I put people and orders and things. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of days. Now that we've
Little insight.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
going to go
I
and come
think
back in
it's
and see if it
possibly
helps.
fairly obvious where we're a touch light. I mean, there's no naturally left-footed centre back in the squad at the moment. I would be surprised if we don't see a partnership of Clara and Newman. My hunch is that
He's gone.
he's gone.
It-
My
I
hunch
was
is
going to
that
see whether he was just going to leave the room or the
No.
streaming
Well,
title.
I don't think that walking out of the bedroom and coming back in would help.
he
Can you see him?
has
He's
just
back.
appeared on my screen though.
He's
So
back. Has that worked?
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
Yeah.
There we go.
That was
Okay.
very loud. That was.
Is that the equivalent of turn it off and turn it on again?
Literally, yeah.
Left the
Sorry.
room and came back.
So,
yeah,
so,
I mean,
so what do we need, Ben?
So I think we need either a left centre back who can play as a left back. So I'm thinking somebody like Callum Doyle, who's been at Coventry, Norwich, a couple of others on loan over the past couple of seasons in the Championship. Man City player that can Leicester City actually. He can play either as a left back or as a left centre back. Is it Hegem at West Brom as well? Is capable of doing the same sort of thing. Remains to be seen. You know, we've got Cochrane. We've been talking about them upgrading either on the existing starter or on the backup player. So it remains to be seen whether or not we bring another left back in on top of that as well to either challenge Cochrane for a starting position or to potentially replace Lee Buchanan spot on the bench as somebody who's struggled with injuries over the last couple of years. And I like Lee Buchanan. I think he's a fantastic Championship player, but I think the way that the club is heading, there will be some ruthless decisions made. And if you have consistent injury issues, that will probably go against you going forward. We ran Cochrane into the ground because essentially we had no other left back until we signed the lesser spotted Lee Mung Jae last, who I think for about 4 months we were all convinced wasn't actually real. He's
And
now
came in, had a decent game, and then got dropped.
yeah, and now is
And then became the president
I
of
was gonna
South
say he's now
Korea or
president
something.
in
Didn't
South Korea, so
Yeah.
changing career all round. So I think there's a little bit of work to do on the left side of defence, both either at left centre back and or left back. Wouldn't be surprised to see us bring in another midfielder, probably a more athletic version of Iwata. Somebody who probably covers a little bit more ground, maybe adds a little bit of height
Height.
into the
Yeah.
midfield as well. Just somebody a little bit more steel. I think we're possibly one short on the right side up front in terms of right wing. We've got players who can switch across. Keshi, we know, can play both sides. Dimmy better off the left, but can play off the right. There's an option to play Osayi-Samuel further forward, but I wouldn't be surprised to see us bring in another right winger, particularly as we were kind of looking at bringing in obviously Kwame Poku. I don't think we've signed Osayi-Samuel as a direct replacement for him, and then I think we will probably bring in another forward player. whether or not they play as a centre forward or not, or they play possibly as a kind of number 10 role. But I think it will be somebody more in the Lyndon Dykes mould. Somebody
If we raid in Saudi Arabia, do you reckon Mitrovic?
that wasn't what I thought you were going to say, but
He's looking, trying to come back, isn't he, or go somewhere? But he's on about 300 grand a week or 250 grand a week.
More
Something
than that, I
ridiculous
think.
like
Probably
that,
like
so-
450 or something. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if we didn't try to bring in somebody with a bit more of a physical presence up top. You know, I think again, it was possibly an area of weakness at times last season. We probably got away with it given the quality in the rest of the squad. But I think having somebody that, and I think we might have said this in the comment. I said this in the comments a couple of weeks ago, but having somebody further forward that the ball sticks to a little bit and can bring us forward, because I don't think the style will massively change. I think we will be one of the sides with the most possession in the league again next year. I don't think a lot of that will change, but I think there will be games where we need somebody that we can go long to.
Bit of an outlet.
Comment that's just come in from Grace and Evan Ferguson, who was someone that we spoke about on the podcast a few weeks ago, that we were there were talks.
Yeah, he's a player that had a lot of interest, so isn't he? And I think the latest links he's had is maybe to Roma or to teams in a team in Serie A or something along those lines. So another one that struggled with injury a little bit and probably needs to get his career going again after being very highly rated for a while. But that, yeah, it's going to be that sort of profile, isn't it, Ben? You would think.
I mean, we had the links to McBurney earlier on in the window, and again, somebody who's not necessarily known for his goal scoring output. He's not going to bang you in 15 goals a season, but
his hold up play and link up play is very good.
We saw that, and again, it always remains to be seen how credible these links are. But the link to Pseudo Machino of Kiel, who've just been relegated from the Bundesliga, again, somebody who could probably play as a number 10 and bring people into the game, what's contributing as well. Because I think Stansfield and Kyogo could probably benefit from having somebody with a bit more physical presence up top with them. I certainly don't think we were suddenly going to change formation and play, like a 4-4-2 or whatever. But I think having somebody who could play in that 10, we tried to use Willemsen in that way, I think, at times last year, and it just didn't quite work. I actually think Lyndon Dykes played that role really well.
He played it far better than he gets credit for, and it's quite frustrating that a lot of people don't see that. He's the reason why I'm not 100% sure we will go for somebody, because I think they might give him the opportunity to try and make that position his own. He's got that championship experience.
I think though that they're always looking to get better, and if they
and
someone,
obviously they are.
Yeah.
I think
apart from being the goalkeeping department. But...
Yeah, I mean, but I think it'll be that type of profile that we would go for in terms of similar kind of attributes in terms of being able to hold the ball and be an out ball.
I would hazard a guess it'll be someone like a McBurney or someone that's been there and done that at a higher level or in the championship. There's one thing that's obviously quite clear from the business we've done in this window, and I think it's going to continue, is that we aren't really buying project type players, younger players that need that. I mean, Beadle's maybe different, but not someone that needs massive amount of development. It's someone that can come in and give you that experience and start from the off and be a game changer almost straight away. I think Blues are moving at such a pace, and it's very, very clear they want to go up again. They may play it down a little bit when you talk to the staff, etc., over the summer, and it's just we'll see where we are. No, maybe go for the playoffs, but they are absolutely trying to get up at the first attempt here, and you can tell that by the profile of players they are bringing in. I think it's highly unlikely that we'll be going for any younger players, like another type of a Yumu or it's all be people that can come in that have been there and done that and have experience or leadership experience and stuff. But I agree with the stuff you've said there, Ben. I think left side centre back, or a left back, if not a left side centre back that can play left back. I do have, despite the fact that Cochrane was like an absolute warrior last season, I do worry a little bit about physicality and a little bit about his pace and as well in the Championship. Certainly he needs some competition in there. That I think that's an area that they might still address. And the centre midfielder, I said online a couple of days ago, I just want the 2025 version of Patrick Vieira. Now, it might be asking a little bit too much, but that is the type of player that I think, we're going to be going for. I think a few people have said like Decore and stuff as well. That good example. And again, a little bit older, what's he, 30, 32 or something. So, Everton are willing to let him go. Someone in that mould might be good, but. I'm still not sure whether they'll bring in a winger now or another winger or not. I think because you've got Fujimoto that can play the 10 and that right sided them, and obviously you've got Laird and Bright that'll offer the width down that right hand side at right back. It might just be having people that can like sort of almost tuck inside. So but I think I agree with all those areas, and of course we're going to be seeing players go out here as well because the squad is becoming bloated.
Well, let's move on to outgoings then, because that is on the topics,
and it has started.
as is the Portugal squad. Yes. Sort of tie in a little bit, don't they? Because you'd assume they would tie in. So, as far as we're aware, Peacock Farrell, Samsted, Sanderson, Roberts are all at Epic. Hansen as well. Is that an injury though? So I was told
Buchanan... he injured himself looking for his passport, didn't he? So...
or packing, trying to close the suitcase.
I mean, the rumour is he's injured, but I don't know if he is injured or not.
I was told that there was two, Buchanan and I assume is Hansen, the two that are there, that are training there because they're injured.
Scott Wright.
Right.
Oh, maybe.
Buchanan.
Yeah, but is he even back?
He's walking. I know that much. But then Lee Buchanan was in a walking boot not that long ago. Really.
He was on a scooter, weren't he, or a bike or something? Did they not get him a little bike to push around on? Was that not the video?
In
the But I mean, I've said numerous times that I think they got quite frustrated with Hansen over the season and just coming on and then coming off again, back from injury and then lasting 2 games, or actually lasting about 25 minutes in one game.
I can imagine that the player himself is more frustrated than anyone.
Naturally, but the way they're going to be ruthless with this sort of thing. I think Ben sort of alluded to it with Buchanan that if this sort of thing keeps happening, Blues will just cut ties.
Get someone else in. Yep.
But all of the ones you said there. Obviously, Longello's gone to Motherwell.
She's all right.
Has that guy messaged you and asked him what he's like?
Yeah.
You should probably ask someone else to reply to him, Chris, because you've hated him since he started. So.
I did. I did give him. I did give him my summary, and then I said, "But don't take it from me." And to be fair, I said he'll probably be all right in Scotland.
Well, it could be hit and miss up there, isn't it? I think all the ones you mentioned there clearly, they're going to try and move out. Sanderson, I think anyone that nailed on to go to Derby, it feels like you'll probably end up with
very
John
likely,
again,
isn't
it?
But, given the players that Eustace has already signed for Derby, I mean, he's getting multiple bands back together, isn't he? Getting the Blackburn band back together, and may as well start on the Blues band back together as well.
I mean, he's the new Harry Redknapp. I kind of get it in a way. Like if he wants to bring in players he can trust, they don't want to be in like a relegation battle again. He wants players that will understand his system and do as he'll say. You kind of get it from that point. But this is not a Derby County or John Eustace podcast. So
If it works for us, happy days. But I think we mentioned last season that the time was probably up for Sanderson.
Yeah.
So
it's the right
I don't
time
think
for him
that's
to go,
changed.
isn't it? I think the problem we're going to have with all of those players, Samson included, I think, is that everybody knows that we need them to go, and a lot of clubs that are looking to want them will sit tight for as long as possible, and they'll lowball us for as long as possible until we have to sort of give in, and then we'll end up not being able to do a deal and loaning them in the transfer window very last minute or something like we did with Tyler Roberts going to Northampton and stuff like that. So that's my only concern, is that we're kind of everyone knows we need to get rid of them.
It wouldn't surprise me if a few of them are just like, take the wages off us and have them at this point now.
Yeah,
it really wouldn't.
The thing I'd say on the wages one is you'd imagine that upon promotion last season they'll have had increases.
Yes, that's the other problem. Yeah,
even in someone like Sanderson's contract, there probably was a promotion clause in there to increase his wage by 25%.
Hopefully it just went back up to what it was when we were in the Championship before we got relegated.
I think that probably is the case. So they would have had a relegation clause in there where it dropped down, and as it come back up, it goes up. So a lot of the time we probably won't be picking up fees for them. It will be just a case of maybe getting the wages off the books.
Let's not forget though, it's fairly standard that the annually now that they increase as well. That there's an increase year on year.
Incremental wages. Wage. Is there anyone in that Portugal squad? Are we surprised at Chang and Hall going? Because I actually expected both of them to have left by this point. So
I thought you were going to say be injured.
Yeah, well, there is that as well. They've done well to stay fit for this amount of time, I would say. I mean, they both finished the season pretty strongly at Warsaw. They both looked pretty good towards the end of that. I know that the final was a bit shit for them, but they looked pretty good. I just don't see where they fit long term in that squad now.
Maybe this is a take them away, have a look at them, and see whether this next move is a loan or whether it's a permanent chance, a last chance loan or a.
There's that, or we know these are young and potentially there's a bit of resale value there. Do we make it look like they're in our plans, or we integrate them in the squad to see if they're the ones we want the money for, not the other players that we're sort of willing to sort of just move on? Your Longellos, your Roberts, your Sandersons. Maybe there's a little bit there in it. I don't know, because all the talk was George Hall was going to Warsaw for about 100 grand with a huge sell on, and Chang was, maybe I want to say Barnsley or someone else, that he was potentially going there. But now they're
to hook up with all the other ex-Blues that are at Barnsley at the moment.
both in this squad over in Portugal, which is. I'm genuinely surprised to see both of them go, because I just did not expect them to be involved at all.
I guess the one thing I would say is, so Chang wouldn't class as being an under-21 player anymore.
No.
So would command a spot within that 25-man squad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on George Hall. He's 21 at the moment, turns 22 in start of January next year. I can't remember what the cut-off date is for under 21, so potentially you could have them both being over 21, and I can't see them fitting into the squad if they're over 21. If they were under 21s players, I think you could possibly keep them around, because they're not taking up a spot from somebody else. But if they're using up squad spots, then you think they probably try and ship them out. And I mean, again, probably just we talked about there's no room for kind of sentimentality and those people. We talked about Buchanan and others who, Hansen with injury issues. I think unfortunately, unless you are uber talented coming through the Blues Academy in the next couple of years, I think you'll probably find it quite difficult to break into this first team squad. I think I'd be very surprised if the long-term play here isn't to invest heavily into the academy when we get to, the Premier League and establish ourselves, and then become a bit of a pipeline for talent coming through. But I think it's going to be difficult over the next couple of years, as you say, as the club moves so quickly.
Yes, that's. I was going to say
Unless it's a Jude or a Job or somebody like that, that is clearly, head and shoulders above their peers and capable of playing at whatever level we're at pretty quickly. Unfortunately.
No, I think it's to be expected. It doesn't really appear that Chris Davies is that keen on playing anybody from the academy or any of the youngsters anyway. People will point to the fact we've taken some youngsters over there, but whether or not that was his decision, I don't know. It might just be a bit of experience for a few of them. But yeah,
also,
right.
with Chris Davies, is there a fact that he doesn't see that those players are up to the quality that the rest of the squad are around him? And as a manager, they're definitely not. But as manager, it's his job to try and bring them through and give them an opportunity to step up and to bring them along. But ultimately, if he's thinking, I want to win games, this is my target.
I haven't got time to develop these players because you want me to get to the Premier League. It's a very difficult situation. There's a lot of pressure on him to get us up, isn't there? And we're moving into top category status soon. So, but the fruition of that will be 5-10 years down the line before we actually start seeing,
fruits.
Yeah, the fruits of the money that we're pumping into it. So,
yep.
Yeah, don't get used to seeing many youngsters involved and around the squads. Maybe in the League Cup or something potentially like that. But
yeah,
it's going to be a bit of a dry period, I think. From
just on that, because it was something that I was discussing in our group chat earlier on in the summer. And I never managed to find the answer to it, but it came up in a Birmingham Mail article, I think from Alex Dickin fairly recently, around club developed players.
Yeah, so this is all about selling them to a higher league, isn't it? So you can get around it for, and
I think it's like 5 years or something ridiculous. So
yeah, so
the fact that we sold Jordan James last year to Rennes in a higher division means that he is now our club developed player for like the next 5 years or something, which is,
and then you've got
Donovan
pointless as well, and Job. So yeah, it's a really daft loophole, to be perfect. It's like all these homegrown players. It's like anyone that can be it can be any nationality, but as long as they've played in English football for the last 5 years or something ridiculous like that. Have we just lost Ben?
We've lost Ben. Let's put Dave back in there. We'll wake Dave up and we'll put him back in there. There we go.
I'm back. Not
right,
Ben.
Do you know what?
Maybe that was Ben's parting.
Have we got any questions or anything coming in the chat?
So there's one that's just come in, and it ties in with Outgoings. Would you guys cut your losses on Willemson with Kyogo, Fujimoto, and Doyle signed? Plus, if we signed another 10 or centre forward.
Hang
on, I'll read that again while you think about it. Would you three guys cut your losses on Willemson with Kyogo, Fujimoto, and Doyle signed? Plus, if we sign another 10 or centre forward. So, Chewy, you've had a moment to think about that. Ben, you mull it over.
I mean, I'd still like to see what he can do in the Championship. I think he's clearly a very talented player. I think the number of games he had to play last season and the physicality became a bit of a shock to him after a while. Took some time to recover from injury and then took some time to get back up to speed again.
I think it was only at the very end of the season that we started to see some of that form back.
Yeah, I saw someone say, "Oh, it's because the war he's back to the warm weather again." I'm just like, he comes from fucking Iceland, for God's sake. So, there's some questionable people online, clearly.
What you mean? There's people that don't know what to talk about online?
There's a lot. There's people that don't know what to talk about on this podcast, Dave, as well. So, I wouldn't. I could see the club would be willing to move him on if the right offer came in,
But that's like
and
anyone.
also,
If the right offer came in for anyone, you'd take it.
you know what I mean. I think they would be. I think they would be willing to move him on, and also, we don't know how well settled or how happy Williamson is in the squad. You know,
And if Samstead goes,
yeah, so if we are like freezing out Samstead, his best bud, like it is going to annoy him, and you know, because that people do take things.
Alphonse, I
People
miss
do
you.
take things personally. So naturally, I'd be looking for us to bring in another 10. I think we would do. I mean, if we sign Doyle or something, say, yes, I could see Williamson going. I wouldn't.
You
I
say
think
that
he's
there's
still
been
got-
interest.
Yeah, I think
Belgium
I want to say
and
Germany, Belgium. I want to say I'm sure there's teams in Holland as well that I'd quite fancy having him back, but I wouldn't. But I could see it happening. It wouldn't surprise me if we did. So I'll hand
Ben?
over to Ben.
Yeah, I very, very similar for me. I wouldn't necessarily be actively looking to move him on, but I think if you know, if I was sat in Craig Gardner's shoes, hopefully not.
Oh, he's gone again.
Please
Oh
come
dear.
back, Ben.
Oh dear. Ben.
We'll just remind him that he was in Craig Gardner's shoes.
So
at that
close to
point.
making quite a funny joke, and then right at the last minute.
Wait.
Do we have him? We don't have him.
No, he might be
Seems-
back. So
seamless
I'm
podcast.
going to
Seamless.
answer
Let
it.
you go,
I'm
and then
gonna
hopefully
answer
comes
it.
back. Yeah.
No. He
You
was
love
one
him,
of my. He
don't
was,
you?
yeah. I love Thor.
You love him as much as Brian Dick. Not you love Brian Dick as much, but Brian Dick loved Big Willies as well.
Oh,
It's in the name, I think.
yeah, I think so. Bag of dicks and a willy. So yeah, for me, when he was firing last season, he was one of the best players in the squad. And yes, we didn't see it enough. But there were just some of the technical touches that he had, and the way that he moved the ball. Some of the things that he did. I think if you can get that and get the best out of him week after week, I think you've got a very, very good player on your hands. And that's something that they need to work on, and they need to figure out how they get that out of him regularly. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you. I like if there was an offer that came in and it was a decent offer, yes, like I'm open to it, because there are players that are going to hit the ground running and they're going to offer you more in every game. But if you can get a tune out of him, I would.
I think there's a possibility that he has maybe a little bit more space to play. We're not going to be playing against numerous low blocks as well. And there's a few times that he would try a deft flick or just try and take the ball in the half turn, then try and thread the ball through when we were sort of in the sort of the final third. I think we saw him do something similar. I want to say it's maybe the Wigan home game where Alfie May ran on to a through ball from him. I think there's a very good chance I mean, that was a little bit further back, but there's a good chance we could see a bit more of that. Certainly with mentioned Kyogo already, that sort of plays on the shoulder of that last defender. He is waiting for those sorts of balls. So we know that Williamson has the ability to sort of thread those through. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, but I could see them doing it.
No, we've got Ben back.
He's
we have
back.
Ben. You're in Craig Gardner's shoes. You sat in Craig Gardner's shoes. I don't know why. Oh, it's got again.
Is it because you keep saying? Is it something to do with Craig
He's
Gardner's
back.
shoes?
Is he there? Is he there? Can you hear us, bud?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I can't hear him, but he can hear us.
Sat in his shoes, not on Craig Gardner. Carry on.
No, I don't want to be sat on Craig Gardner's lap like some kid.
No, you said
visiting
you
Santa.
said if I was sat in Craig Gardner's shoes.
Yes. That where I cut out.
That's where you cut out.
Yeah.
So
That's where you are. So
Wow. everyone's been in suspense of me sat in Craig Gardner's shoes. No, very similar to Matthew. I think if I was in Craig Gardner's shoes and an offer somewhere close to what we paid for him last summer came across the desk, I would probably take it, but I wouldn't necessarily be actively looking to move him on. Chris, you said earlier, I guess that everybody has a right price, but I think his is probably closer to what we paid for him than, say, a Christoph Clara, where I think you'd be
It's increased.
looking at stupid
Yeah.
offers for
Yeah.
the club to part with Clara at the moment. I think again, similar to Matthew, I think he's got good qualities. I think we saw.
We'll never know what we saw.
Come on, similar to me. What is he saying? He's going to agree with me. Get him back. He agrees with me.
Oh,
This
I
is.
don't know what I don't know what to do now.
Have you
Dave,
got any more-
Dave,
have you got
can
any
you
more
get
questions?
Dave?
If
can you
anyone
fi-
knows what Ben is going to sort of finish his sentences with,
Finish his sentence.
Dave, can you finish the sentence for him as you're?
I was.
Can you give
I
us
was,
a happy ending?
I was doing multiple things at once, so I wasn't. I was partly paying attention.
Oh, did you have
so-
porn open as well?
Sadly not. Sadly not. That's just Ben. I think now.
Hopefully, well, there's a comment here. I'll tell you what. So there's a
He's back. He's back.
There's a comment here.
He's back.
Hopefully
Hang on. Arms aloft. He's back.
Hopefully, Craig Gardner's got better broadband than Ben.
Are you on dial-up, Ben?
hopefully.
Are you on dial-up?
I sat next to the router as well. That's the worst part about it. Switching contracts in a couple of months, so I'm hoping that's going to be better.
Is this Mark Watson's fault? Is it something to do with
It's his open reach. His bad connections. Yeah.
Right, I can't even remember what you were saying. Craig Gardner's shoes.
Craig Gardner's shoes.
Everyone has a price.
You were about to
Who's
agree
his
with me
closer?
again. I think.
You were about to, yes.
Yeah, I would quite like to see him given an opportunity in the Championship, see what he can produce. I think we saw bits of real quality from him last season, albeit sporadically, towards the beginning of the season, towards the end of the season. But I could see a situation where he's not in the club come 5 games into the season.
Right. I think we're gonna let's move on quickly. Would you keep Alfie May? That's another question in the comments. This is the last one.
Yes.
Until January, at least.
Okay, I would. Yeah, he deserves a chance, even if it's from the bench, and he's not going to be getting as long as he knows it.
It's a
happy
long
days.
season.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Jay Stansfield's played in a tournament this summer. Kyogo has a shoulder injury, a shoulder problem that can keep him out for a few games here and there.
And played very little football second half of the season.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think it was like 120 minutes worth of football over the last 6 months or something. So, and Alfie May, even if you're bringing him on for like 10, 15 minutes, you need a goal. Like he'll give you energy. He gives you that the danger man in the box. It doesn't matter what level, that he's still probably going to get chances, and he's still going to score the odd goal if he's given the opportunity.
And he's a good character.
Yeah, I mean the fact that he's looking after the younger lads over in Portugal, I think he's sort of their chaperone or I don't know, childminder. I think he's don't cancel us for that. I think he's looking after them as well, isn't he? So
he'll be absolutely chomping at the bit for an opportunity in the Championship. Yeah. Absolutely gunning for it. He's never been at this level before. He is advancing in age, but he spent a bit of time non-league, so he's probably actually physically a couple of years younger than what he is. In terms of his actual age. So I think he could still offer us something. I think he's probably one we look at in January and say, Alfie, you've not really contributed. We're looking at bringing someone else in. We're going to send him out on loan for 6 months to.
Vice versa. He goes and said, I want to play more. I would like to go and get a first team football somewhere. So he had his chance in the Championship for a few games, and he might want to push the move, but
go to Derby.
Yeah. I think keeping him around for now for sure. I mean, I think he'll score goals at most levels, and he deserves. I still think he deserves a chance in the championship.
I agree. So anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to nearly wrap it up. I've got a very quick.
Aye, send him to Cornea.
This one goes out to Mike Ashley and Sports Direct because they've managed to spoil both kit launches.
It wasn't you.
Wasn't me this time. No,
Yeah.
no. So I got pulled for it by some of the staff a few years back, saying like we put the effort into the kit launches. Like we know that you get what the kits are.
Does
but
Mike
please-
Ashley actually have anything to do with Sports Direct anymore? I don't think he does.
I
Does he?
don't know, but I'm going to send him anyway. He's still my face of it. Not my face. He's the face that I associate with it. So he's going to go. It's
Okay.
probably just some little Villa fan who's working in there, isn't it? Yeah, that'll be funny. But yeah, two kit launches that have both been ruined. So there you go. There's a quick corner.
I thought.
Aye, send him to Cornea.
I thought you might bring up Putin, Abramovich, oligarchs, and the Villa Talk forum.
I wasn't going to. I only heard about this briefly, but
Yeah, for those who haven't heard
is it something like Tom Wagner's only building the sports quarter because he's got the backing of Putin and
something to do with money laundering, Trump, Putin, Gasparovich, Abramovich. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. They've come up with all these weird and wonderful theories of how we've got so much money and how we're building the sports quarter, or how the Blues tend to build the sports quarter. I think it's all based off of an article that was written like 7 or 8 years ago, where there was a link with Knighthead management and something in Russia. I think it was on the previous Trump running office. I don't know if you read any of it, Ben, but I had a quick glance down it and then looked at the article that I think they were trying to refer to, and I was just like, well, how is this even?
Ben
this
actually
is
works
even
for
relevant?
Gazprom.
It's I clicked on it. I mean, it amused me slightly that this
Open loads of pop-ups on his screen.
Yes, that's what it was. No, I clicked on the forum link, and it did amuse me that there was 1,850 pages in this thread about Blues on their forum. But we all know
not obsessed.
Not obsessed.
There's actually a handful of fans on there that were like quite like reserved and actually like not many of them, but they were like, oh, they've done really good business this summer. So this is actually quite surprising because you don't really associate that with them. But yeah, there was some absolute nonsense.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll tell you what, Ben. It's no wonder that your computer's playing up tonight when you've been on there. Infected,
rumbled. Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. Yeah, I mean that article was tenuous at best in terms of if that's what they're basing some theories.
It's like something written in The Onion, wasn't it, or something along those lines. It's yeah, right. I was surprised. I thought you were going to do for that. So what have we got left? Just
last thing is the Prime teaser trailer. So came out today. That it's the much anticipated Amazon Prime documentary on Blues is launching it 1st of August.
1st of August, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's later than they actually planned, isn't it?
I just assumed it would be out by now. You know.
Well, they said summer, and August summer still. So
I thought it'd be out well before the season. You know, right? Sort of felt like it was kicking in though. But anyway, it looks great, doesn't it?
What I quite liked about it, they kept it blues like who's Tom Brady, like the people not knowing who they were. That bit was fine. The bit about it's very much marketed towards an American audience.
Oh, it's not for us.
There's a massive amount of Brady, Rooney, Peaky Blinders, which they obviously love.
It's absolutely not for Birmingham fans. I mean,
do you know
Birmingham
what, though?
fans
I think
will
it will
watch
be. I think it will be as well. I think
this
it's
is
going to be a
garner
mix.
interest from around the globe,
It
they're
is.
good. Tom Brady has a 3% stake in the club. Even that is it, and okay, he's got his Super Greens team at the sports science, and
I
he's
was a
obviously
bit
been
surprised with the tagline "Brady and the Blues" or whatever it was.
well.
I
And
wasn't
this is it.
expecting
They
that.
need to
It's for
set,
the marketing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
need to
yeah.
set it
This is why it's for the
absolutely
US.
wider world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I just wasn't expecting that, or or Blues with Brady or something.
Yeah,
like-
but as
I
Matthew
can't-
said,
I
it's not
can't-
it's not made for us, is it?
Yeah.
You know,
It-
we'll
no.
watch it. It'll be great. It'll be
Yeah.
lovely to see. But we're not the target market.
I try to convince my other half to watch it with me, see if I can try and get her to show a little bit more interest in just telling me to shut up on Saturdays and Tuesdays. So
Here's one for you. The question that's just come in. Were you lads surprised they included the Grealish slap in the promos?
Yeah,
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised. Somebody made a comment in the group chat that I'm in and said, I think the voiceover at that time was about channeling like energy in the right way. So I think it was kind of done in a way we're not glorifying what happened by it, but you know, it's a vehicle. But yeah, it was somewhat surprising to see that.
Any other thoughts on it?
I am genuinely looking forward to watching it. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, there'll probably be some interesting bits on there that we aren't aware of, or they've probably polished up some bits to make it look a bit more glamorous than things actually are. I mean, and that's the way they do it. It's like the All or Nothing Man City series. A lot of that was all completely what's the word? There's a bit of a facade, really. They've made it look like something it wasn't. Yeah, sort of manufactured it. It was less like something like Sunderland's Till I Die, which was very sort of balls out and raw and not really edited. So I mean, it was edited obviously, but they kept a lot of the stuff in there that a lot of clubs just wouldn't show. So obviously the production on this looks absolutely massive as well, like really, really good. So
I mean, if you've been to a game in the last couple of years, you'll have seen the cameras around as well. So they've been everywhere. Yeah.
So let's have a guess, right? So there's a video of Chris Davies telling the camera to get out.
So that's actually just come in the comments. Love Davies telling the camera crew to get out in one of the clips.
Any guesses what game that is?
Oh, you've put me on the spot there. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
It could be any game, couldn't it? Really, a game that we were down, losing at half
Charlton
time.
away.
I was thinking Shrewsbury, but I mean, yeah, that
could
was.
be. Yeah.
I think it was Wrexham away.
Yeah.
Yeah, the changing. If you guys cut out again, then so I missed that. But I have a feeling you asked the question of the clip of Davies coming in and telling the cameras to get out.
Well done, Ben. Yeah.
There you go. I think Wrexham away, just because the changing rooms were black, and having watched a little bit of the Wrexham documentaries over the years, I think they've.
There you go. Ben's ruined it for everyone. Well done, Ben. Well done for ruining it for everybody.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Ben.
no, don't bother watching it now.
We know what happens anyway. We got relegated.
That is the reason why the Wi-Fi is so poor. I am in Cornell.
You are now. Right. I think we're done.
We all done.
Yeah.
We're all done.
But Ben, thank you so much for jumping on again and again and again and again and again. We got there in
Pleasure
the
as
end.
always.
Thank you to everyone who's joined in and stuck with us through all of it. It's been good to be back and to be discussing some of the signings. Dave, Chewy, Ben, thanks guys, and until next time, keep right on.
Keep right on.
Right on.